Hello and welcome to the second video, my first ever technical series of videos, where I'm looking at the anointedone.net website, which I am of course going to link again along with all the other stuff in the side where it always is. Now this website, we're about halfway down, there's not much being said so far. Watch my first one, it'll tell you kind of what's going on. They're basically talking a load of rubbish. Right, the law of biogenesis, they say. This law, which I technically thought was outdated, this law is comprised of two parts. First part states that living things only come from other living things and not from non-living matter, which the abiogenesis is contradictory to that form, and any way that life came into being would be contradictory to that, and since life has not always existed, that is wrong completely. Whether you believe in God or not, that is wrong. Non-living matter went to form living matter if you believe in God, when God created living things. That's just the way it is. If God created living things, then he made it from non-living matter. So that part is wrong. It says life only comes from life, which for the majority of time is correct, but from the point that I pointed out earlier. The second part of this law states that when living things procreate, their offspring are the same type of organism they are. Yes, they go on. This is consistent with the account revealed in Genesis, which says that all living things reproduce after their own kind. Sharks only come from other sharks, and where do you draw the line between different species of shark? Snakes from other snakes? How do you define a snake? Something without legs, because snakes have been found with legs, which is due to their genetic heritage. Owls from other owls, orange trees from other orange trees. What's the difference between an orange tree and a mandarin tree? That they're both considered different, yet they're both very, very similar. Couldn't they have separated from different origins? Every living organism alive today is a product of it and evidence for biogenesis. No. Living thing, even Charles Darwin in his first edition of The Origin of Species recognised the fact that species exist together, and it's the gene pool that makes this up which continues on down the evolutionary path, where the group as a whole will evolve. You don't suddenly get a shark giving birth to a ray or something. It's sharks. Well, there'll be divergent paths, but there will be species of shark which, through isolation, through specialisation in bottom feeding, will eventually, through evolution, become rays. That they will always be the same species that they're procreating, but they will digress towards the path. That they will always procreate their own species, but the species will itself change over time, like all species do. They all change over time. The human species, if you decided to completely wipe out every, say, Caucasian, and you were left with Asians, Indian Asians, and Africans, and there was no Caucasians, then that would push, in our open society now, our society towards there will be no Caucasians ever born again. any new Caucasians will be different from the old ones because they're extinct. It's the whole population will digress towards a different form than, say, if you killed every single black African. I mean, then of course you would lose that genetic information, and the species will push towards a different form than if you wipe out different groups, because we are on par with being varieties of people. Just like any other species has varieties, there is varieties of humans, and although it may sound racist, there are actual genetic differences. Obviously, it's perfectly visible that there are genetic differences. Does not mean that they're not human species, but they are genetically a different group. And if they were isolated, they would eventually become a different species. That's just the way it is. And now, abiogenesis has been debunked many times over. No, it hasn't. Abiogenesis as a theory, you could put forward God. I mean, technically, you would need evidence for it as a scientific theory, but you could. When someone observes the first examples of spontaneous generation, which include self-replicating machinery, DNA and RNA, DNA is not very good at self-replicating. It requires proteins. RNA, on the other hand, can self-replicate, kind of, and has been seen through looking at the ribosome and stuff. It is that the ribosome comprises of RNA fragments, and it can be considered to actually be able to do its job without with proteins taken away from it. It can still do its job. When someone observes the first examples of spontaneous generation, which include self-replicating machinery, biogenesis will no longer be a law. I've already stated that it's not, anyway, a law, due to other reasons. If one stretched out a strand of DNA from the oldest and most basic organism known to man, now I've looked up what is known as the most basic organism at the moment, and I will post that on the side as well, the paper of Mycoplasma genitalium, which has a nucleotide sequence, complete nucleotide sequence of 580,070 base pairs. And in this website it says most basic organism known to man, a bacterium. It would be almost 1,000 times longer than the diameter of bacterium itself. Its DNA pattern is, they're using completely incorrect terminology for this, is about 4 million blocks long. I mean, does that mean codons? Are they talking about codons here? Because those are blocks, or are they talking about nucleotides? But it's obviously an eighth of that size is the minimal amount of that's in a living organism. And they're saying, where did all this exquisite information come from? Evolution. The components of bacterium are far more complex than any machine mankind has ever made. Yeah. You just have to take a big, deep breath when watching. Oh, bugger! I'm nearly run out of time. Right, I'll go on to this on the next one. Where am I? Yeah. Right, I'll make another one. 3 videos series. Yay.